Well, June was crazy. So let's talk about July. What's going on, YouTube? Michael R. Schulteis here, author of The Rostoval Saga, which you can see, as always, on the shelf behind me. Today I'm coming at you to talk about my July to-be-read, maybe-read list. Also, it's the 4th of July here, so if you hear fireworks in the background, that's what's going on. Happy birthday, America! So a month ago, or thereabouts, I rang in June with a modest TBR and went on to finish none, zero, zip, zilch, nada of those books. What the heck happened? Well, life has been crazy. Crazy good, but still crazy. The key piece of craziness right now is I am working away on the 4th book of the Rostoval Saga. Now, I finished the first draft back on May 2nd, and I had a 202,942 word count. Last I checked, it was 236,128 words for draft number 2, and it's been a bit of a ride, but it's been fun, it's been worthwhile. It's also been crazy. Also, it's getting warm here in Oregon, and when it gets hot, I tend to stay up late working on the book and not reading. So with all of that out of the way, what am I going to try to read for July? Well, number one is probably no surprise. It's The Way of Edan by Dr. Philip Chase. It is the 3rd time now that I'm featuring this book on a TBR list, but hey, I'm 64% of the way in. I am freaking loving it. It reads like a classic fantasy with some kind of modern aspects. You get multiple sides of this holy war that's breaking out in this fantasy world. It's very cool. I'm getting kind of a early to high medieval vibe. Really love it. Really dig it. Looking forward to finishing and actually having a review to share with you all. Alright, number 2 of Blood and Fire by Ryan Cahill. I picked this up very recently. I'm 4% in. Again, has a bit of a classic fantasy vibe. It's kind of a slow burn start. That's not a bad thing at all. I'm actually a huge fan of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, so I'm looking forward to seeing where this thing goes. I hear it is a little slower at the beginning, getting in look at the lives of our protagonists before everything changes and goes crazy. So I'm looking forward to this one, and perhaps I'll finish by the end of July. Fingers crossed. Okay, book number 3, Shadow and Claw by Gene Wolfe. Another June TBR pick. Man, I kicked a lot of books down the road here, didn't I? I'm about 24% of the way in. This is some of the most innovative sci-fi I've ever read. Now, it's technically sci-fi. You're in the real world in the very far distant future, but it feels very epic fantasy. You feel like you're in a secondary world. A very vivid, very well thought out, thoroughly world-built secondary world. The protagonist is a young fellow named Severian. He is an apprentice torturer. He gets kicked out for being too merciful. And the whole thing is very cool. Again, kind of slow burn. I can't say too much about it, even though I'm a quarter of the way in. Except it's really very interesting and very engaging, and I am looking forward to reading more of it and hopefully sharing my thoughts by the end of July. We'll see. Okay, Elder Race by Adrian Tchaikovsky. So far, this one, and this is a bit of a theme here now, feels a bit like a mix of sci-fi and epic fantasy. I can't quite tell. It has an epic fantasy feel, but I think maybe there's a sci-fi explanation. I don't really know. The only other book of his that I've read is Children of Time, which has a very cool science fiction premise about humans accidentally kickstarting the evolution of a sentient species of spiders on another world. Fascinating premise. May not be for you if you have arachnophobia. Just saying. Okay, that's it for fiction. I'm actually going to try and keep this one even more modest than previous TBRs. Maybe I can actually hit the goal for once. We'll see. So how about some non-fiction before I go? I have a couple books here. They're both super fascinating. So let's talk. So we have The Last Days of the Incas by Kim McQuarrie. I'm about 26% of the way in. This is a bit of a theme here. Quarter of the way into some of these books. This is the story of Francisco Pizarro's conquest of the Inca Empire in modern-day Peru and other parts of South America. It is the stuff of high tragedy. You have an incredible clash of civilizations. You have a story of daring and enterprise and exploration and greed and all of the awfulness that comes with human nature and human conflict. The events of this story really are stuff of high tragedy, because the Inca actually have their own civil war that is wrapped up right before Pizarro shows up. I'll say this. It's definitely true that the conquistadors were a violent bunch, very ruthless, and had a lust for the spoils of war. But then if you read human history, including Inca history, you may find that human beings do tend to be violent, ruthless, and have a lust for the spoils of war. It's the way of people, as Jack Donovan would say. As tragic as this story is, I think more and more that many great human stories do have elements of tragedy. And I will say that Pizarro's story is an epic adventure. It reads like something ripped from the annals of Greek or Roman history. I think if you like to read about people like Alexander, Sulla, Caesar, you should definitely give this one a try. Okay, the final book here, another non-fiction title, End Times, Elites, Counter-Elites, and the Path of Political Disintegration by Peter Turchin. Another engaging book. I'm about a quarter of the way in. What else is new? So, Peter Turchin is one of the creators of structural demographic theory. His idea is we can explain instability, conflict, disintegration within a society. Whether you're talking about, say, the Roman Republic in the 2nd and 1st centuries before Christ, or maybe France in the 14th century, and again in the late 18th century, or maybe America now. You can explain these things in terms of the population gets bigger, there's more inequality, and eventually you have too many elites for the number of rich plum positions that there are. So then some elites are frustrated and they become counter-elites, and then you have warring factions, and the rest, as they say, is history and perhaps current times. So this one is very timely, and I am really looking forward. I have read some Turchin before. War and Peace and War, The Rise and Fall of Empires. That's a fascinating book in its own right. So that's everything on my list. How about you? What's on your July TBR? Do you want to read any of these books? Let me know in the comments, and hey, if you could like and subscribe, that'd be amazing. It really helps us to grow the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I will hope to catch you on the next video.